Spencer, many also say the fact that Tim Walz was picked and not Josh Shapiro reflects the fact that they wanted somebody who has a non-threatening personality and who comes across as relatable and has more resonance with your average American voter as compared to Shapiro.
Well, at a certain point, of course, we can only speculate about what went into this choice, and only Kamala Harris ultimately is the one who knows for sure why she chose one candidate over another. Josh Shapiro has been a very successful governor in Pennsylvania, winning large majorities and maintaining his popularity, even while the state itself can be a toss-up in terms of whether it's going to go Democrat or Republican. He's also renowned for his communication skills. So I'm not sure there's a huge difference there. I would say, though, that I think that based on what I've seen from Tim Walz so far, he's not just a good communicator. He may be a brilliant communicator. He, again, based on the slim evidence I've seen so far, demonstrates a talent that you can't be taught. And ultimately, I think that talent is rooted in authenticity. Some people are brilliant at faking authenticity. I would say that's one of Donald Trump's few talents, is that he's actually very good at making people feel that he's being emotionally authentic with them, even while he's lying his head off. Tim Walz seems to have an emotional authenticity that seems to be rooted in who he actually is, and seems to be based in honesty, integrity, and as he was emphasizing in his introduction, joy. I certainly hope all that proves to be true. I think in the end, a message of hope will defeat a message of fear. Very often, campaigns, at least in the United States, but I think often around the world, end up being contests between a candidate of hope and a candidate of fear. Both of those emotions can work to either terrify people into voting for you or inspiring them into voting for you. Ultimately, I believe most human beings prefer hope. And in the end, it's a more powerful strategy and a more durable one.
Spencer, then let me also ask you, yes, communication is important when you're running an election, when you have to reach out to the last voter in the queue. But what perhaps is a challenge to Tim Walz? What is it that might be a problem for him in this race, that might hold him back in this race?
Well, I think that if he continues the way he's going to be in good shape. Political reporters, certainly in the United States, love to obsess over policy details and the nuances of campaign strategy, partly, I think, because they have to fill 24 hours a day of political coverage with something. And so one way to do that is to cover as if it's sports and get into all the statistics and nuances. The average voter doesn't actually care that much about ideology, usually doesn't actually know very much about ideology. And to the extent that they have an ideology, it's usually very inconsistent. And you see this on the right and the left. People respond to candidates, especially at the national level and most of all at the presidential level.
Just to be fair to the voter, to the average voter, I think you're undermining their intelligence a bit when you say that they don't have an ideology and they don't understand ideology.
No, I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying they don't.
People have their ideology.
I think they have higher priorities, and I think very often the ideology that people believe that they have adopted actually stands for deeper emotional and spiritual and moral values that they hold, and whatever ideology they align with usually is a proxy for those deeper values. And when you press them, you find that, unsurprisingly, most people actually don't have a deep knowledge of ideology, because after all, it takes years of study to really understand these various ideologies. And so I think that ultimately, as long as Tim Walz stays focused where he is, which is connecting with regular people who are not ideologues, but who care deeply about more emotional and moral issues like the fate of their children, their own safety, the health of the environment, the health of the economy, and they care about those things in deeply emotional terms for understandable reasons. As long as he continues to communicate with them that way, as we've seen before with successful candidates bridging ideological divides, like Barack Obama, for example, or Bill Clinton or Ronald Reagan, that is the strategy that will work with most voters.